Okay, well, thank you everybody for joining. I am going to switch over to the screen and turn my video off, but I'm glad you're here. So I wanted to just get started with a general overview and kind of lay out the timeline, and then we can open it up to questions and discussion, and I'll try to address any questions that come up in the chat as I go along. But I want to leave a lot of this meeting open for kind of dialogue about what to expect or any concerns you have, or how we can make this transition as smooth and as successful as possible. So first, I just wanted to go over the timeline, like I mentioned. So right now we're in these rollout meetings, that's this week. And then this Friday will be the last prioritization list sent out. And next Tuesday will be the last time new assessments can be submitted to the prioritization list. But for housing providers, we'll continue to accept the request for housing referrals until we're live in HMIS. So we'll just work off of our existing prioritization list during the blackout period. But please continue to submit those requests through the Google form. Once the housing request Google form is closed, you won't be able to do that anymore. So you'll know, as long as it's active and you're able to input data, I'm accepting referral requests through that Google form. And then after that, all referrals will be through HMIS themselves, through Homeless Management Information System. And the goal for that right now is December 23rd. So that means from about from December 8th, December 23rd, we'll be meeting with the static list and providing referrals to housing partners from the static list. And then hopefully we'll be live in HMIS by December 23rd. Then I just want to remind you all that attached on the email was this flyer and handout, and I especially wanted to point out the page 2 has a lot of additional resources, particularly those that for these housing provider meetings. The second batch would be helpful. It has the workflows and links to trainings, so it really helps to kind of review those and go through what the step-by-step is, especially if you're not an existing family housing provider. So the family housing providers are probably fairly familiar with the process. It'll be the same for individuals and veterans. But if you're not already doing it for families, please review those training resources and complete the training to get access to the referral dashboard by December 23rd, if you're going to be the person requesting referrals through HMIS. And so I just wanted to kind of go over a reminder of roles, just the big categories of roles. So we have access points, and we had a kind of a migration meeting on Monday for that group, and a lot of you were carryovers from that as well too, so you play multiple roles of your agencies. So we have the access points. They're responsible for completing the assessments, maintaining people on the prioritization list, which will now be referred to as the community queue. That's the language in HMIS. And then the housing agency, which this meeting is geared for the housing agencies. So those are the agencies that are requesting referrals from coordinated entry and complete their own intake and eligibility process, and ultimately help the households obtain permanent housing. And then the matchmaker role has been the county, and we have the Family Solutions Collaborative that operates the family coordinated entry system, and they're also a matchmaker. And then for the housing agency roles, just to kind of provide a little more detail, this is from the, these last 2 slides are from the HMIS CES webinar. I thought they laid it out really clearly that these are the roles for the housing providers. You want to provide the housing opportunities. You're responsible for accepting and managing the referrals or denying the referrals. And then this is as large as I can make it. I'm sure this workflow is hard to see on your screen, but it is linked in the resources on the rollout flyer. I just wanted to kind of go through the steps so we all have at least a shared understanding. Some of you, this will be very familiar and you already know the process. Some of you, this is the first time you're kind of going through what housing request looks like in HMIS. So first you would review your agency's coordinated entry activity. And that's on the referral tab overview. So on the referral tab, when you're a housing provider, you see all the pending housing requests, who's been matched to you, and then that's how you can manage who should be moving towards their housing plan or who needs to be returned. And then if you want to request housing, you would add bed units. So those can be also permanent supportive housing units. You add those to HMIS, and that's what triggers a referral request from the county for individuals and veterans to provide those referrals during the next regularly scheduled match meeting, which is on Tuesdays. Then once you receive that referral, you can either deny that referral if they're not eligible or maybe not responding to your contact attempts. You reject them, and they get returned back to the prioritization list, or now community queue, or you hopefully accept them, and then they're moving towards their move-in date, and you would complete their program entry into your own project. And once they're accepted, they get automatically removed from the community queue, and then you would need to remove them, exit them from the coordinated entry program enrollment. So some things I wanted to just mention is that I will be working with the access points to make sure that we're keeping the contact tab up to date so that you can use that for your outreach and engagement in the intake process, as well as including the case manager's contact information, if at all possible, in that contact tab in HMIS, so that as much as possible can be coordinated and communicated directly through those HMIS resources. And then the only other point I had to make before we can open it up for general discussion is in addition to accepting and denying referrals, there is a process for maintaining those referrals and keeping them updated in HMIS. So once you have a referral received into your kind of dashboard, you'll want to make sure that you're checking in at least 90 days. So just do a quick update. So hopefully they're housed much faster than 90 days and there's no update necessary. But if you are still working with a referral, please make sure that you maintain that referral active on your pending referrals. So if you have any questions, please feel free to put them in the chat and we can go into more detail. Or if you have, I'm not going much into the detail with technical, the how-tos to do it in HMIS. 2-in-1-OC has a lot of great resources and trainings on their websites to go over kind of the step-by-steps. But if you have questions about that, I'm happy to direct you to where you can get those trainings. But in the meantime, I did have kind of my own questions I wanted to raise to this group is, and since I don't see anything coming into the chat, but if you do have your own things, please put them in. But if not, I'm going to ask my questions, which is, as we transition to HMIS, I really want this to be successful for everybody. So please, that's question one. If you have any suggestions or needs, please put them in the chat or unmute yourself and let me know. And then the other specific question I had was about agencies that are already participating in family coordinated entry system and requesting referrals that way. If you had any best practices or things that have worked well for you that you would like to see replicated, and we can kind of learn from that process. The family system did our pilot and has been operating in HMIS for the last 2 years. So I'm sure there's a lot of lessons learned that would be great to carry over to our individual system and veteran system.
Hi, Rebecca.
Yeah. Hi,
Hi, hey, Rebecca. Sorry. I was chiming in with the question that I had. I'm sorry, it's not in response to any of the 2 questions that you posed.
No problem.
So my question is about the blackout period that's going to be from December 9th to the 23rd.
Mm-hmm.
I just want to make sure that I'm understanding correctly. This blackout is going to affect the 211oc.org website. We're not going to be able to submit any individual VI SPEDATs during that time. Is that correct?
Yeah, we don't submit them to the 2-in-1 website anymore, but the concept is right. We're from December 8th essentially forward. that Google form will be closed. This is for new assessments. It's different for housing. For requesting housing referrals, that will remain open, but for assessments, that's going to be closed. So if you want to add anybody, add them before the 8th. Anybody who submitted before the 8th, we will commit to making sure that they're added and imported in.
Okay, so that would also include like the housing preference surveys. Those also would not be able to be added during that 2-week time frame.
Exactly right. So so you can continue to assess people and complete the intake. Just hold on to them during that blackout period, and then once we're in HMIS, you can go and enter them in. And if you need help with that or anything, I'm concerned about the volume. So if anybody needs help catching up on those assessments, just let me know, and we can try to support you in that too.
Okay, and then the last part of my question is, once things come back online on the 23rd, what we had originally been entering through the Google Docs or the Google Forms, they're going to then start to get entered into HMIS directly. Is that right?
That's right, exactly. So there was a session on Monday, and the recording will go out on Friday. But yeah, exactly. There'll be a program intake. They roll into the project, and then you a VI-SPDAT assessment, and then you collect the documents, which are then uploaded in HMIS, and then they get referred to the community queue, and that will all be in HMIS.
Perfect. Thank you
so
so much.
Hopefully it'll streamline it. No, it's a transition, but it should be nice.
Great. So I wanted to make sure I understood that clearly. Thank you so much.
Thank you for your question. Okay, let's see, there's a few chats, but I'm still hoping to get feedback on successful practices for my question too, or if there's any resources you need. So one question is, could you please share the information for the training videos you mentioned? Sure, I will put those, or maybe, I think Myra, you're on the call. Could you pull some of those links to the trainings and put them in the chat for me? Thank you, Myra. It's hard to multitask here. Okay, so then we're getting background. Yeah, if anybody's not talking, if you could mute yourself, that would be great. Okay, so then there's a question about sending updates and sending the VI-SPDATs and all that stuff. Yeah, anything. So one way to think of it is anything that used to be emailed to coordinated entry at ochca.com, right? If you submitted assessments that way, or if you submitted updates that way, that's all going to be through HMIS now. Obviously, if you have a question or you need support, please still email us. That email will still work, and we will respond to it, of course. But all the data entry portion, that's going to be live data entry as much as possible into HMIS. That's both for enrolling people into the coordinated entry system and for the housing requests. Everything will be in HMIS. And I do see a statement about the veterans. The assessment for coordinated entry is standardized by population. So the family system has their own assessment that's completed prior to adding somebody to the community queue, and same thing with the individuals. And then the veterans in HMIS, the assessment is going to be one question. It's just going to be, are you a veteran? Because we're in the fortunate position of having sufficient resources for our veterans, we don't need the prioritization tools that we use for the other populations. So it's just, are you a veteran? And if it's yes, then they'll be added to the community queue based on that response. Let's see. Okay, so then from Stephanie C, not sure about everyone else, but when completing the skill test training to reactivate my account, the test was very confusing since we only use a few of the many HMIS functions. Wondering if future trainings can be a little more user-friendly. I think that's input, but that's actually for the HMIS team, which is operated by 2110C. So I'll pass along that information as well. But I also think it's important, just to give them a little plug, it is important to know all those skills, even if it's not every day. I have the same struggle. Completing those tests is really hard because I don't use all those features, but I just do my best and I get the feedback and I read you the question and then I know. But I'll pass it on to the 2-in-1 team. Okay, and then the next one is, where would we be able to find the recordings of the meetings? Great question. So on Friday, so I have these migration meetings on Monday, today, and then the final one is tomorrow. So I'll package all of those up on Friday and email them to all the coordinated entry partners. So that way anybody who wasn't able to attend the meeting or really enjoyed it and wanted to watch it again, can watch it again on your own time, and then follow up and email me with any questions that come out of that. So I will include anybody that's on the CES distribution list. And then now for sites that are project-based, such as Heroes Landing, that have a third-party property management, will they now be placing available units and receiving referrals through this process? Great question, and you're anticipating I have a call on my checklist to call you, Danielle, to talk specifically about Heroes Landing.
Oh, perfect.
Yeah, so it is complex. Each project-based, I'll call you just so we can work out the specific details for Heroes Landing, but in general, for project-based sites, each site is different. So sometimes it's the service provider that requests the referrals. Sometimes it's the housing authority. So there's a couple project-based sites that I have on my call list, Heroes Landing being one of them, to try to sort out who it would be the appropriate person to request those, or which agency would be appropriate to request those matches. So expect my call.
Thank you. That sounds great.
Okay, and then thanks so much for Myra putting in those resources. That's great. All right, lots of great resources. Okay, and Erin says she's already heard the feedback from Stephanie, so that's great. Thank you so much. Okay, so I didn't see anything about my question, so I'm going to ask it again and see if, and maybe call in some people I know. Mercy House, I know you guys have worked in both family system and the individual system. So if you have any kind of best practices or things that you would like different even, just tips for people that might be kind of making this transition for the first time, more successful. I think American Family Housing, you're in both. Everybody's gonna be shy.
Hi, Rebecca. It's Patty from Mercy House. So the way we normally do it here, or at least part of like the rapid rehousing team, is we would each post or submit any opportunities we had opened. But for families, what we would do is we would have our data analysts submit those for us with the information that applied to the program.
Okay, and do each of you have access to the referral dashboard, or you manage that through your data analysts? They see like a master dashboard.
No, it would have to go through our data analysts.
Where did the
Okay, all right, yeah, thank you, Patty. And I know
Yeah, no
that's
problem.
kind of the model that Mercy House uses. They have a centralized data person, even for the assessments.
Yeah.
And it gets fed through that, and then that's how it gets an HMIS.
Yep.
Thanks, Patty.
Uh-huh.
Thank you.
Okay. Well, if there's any other thoughts on that, I would love to hear them from anybody at any time. And I do have another thought. So on the individual side, we've historically referred to, and for veterans actually too, we tend to refer 2 referrals for every housing opportunity, with the thinking that usually about 50% are either unresponsive or ineligible. And so it just kind of through natural attrition, we end up with the right number of referrals. In HMIS, it's a little bit different because in Excel, we can say this is the primary match, this is your backup match, and you kind of work through them in order. But in HMIS, you're just going to receive, if we did 2 for 1 still, you'll receive 2 referrals, and they'll work through kind of concurrently. So this is one area where I'm kind of looking for input and suggestions about how to manage that and whether that still makes sense in our model. Should we still, there are a lot of advantages for sending 2 referrals for everyone for attrition reasons, but it does make it more complex when it's a 1-for-1. The system's really set up to be 1 referral for 1 housing opportunity.
And Rebecca, you're referring to we do the referral and then we do a backup. Is that what you were meaning about the two? Yeah.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah.
So, and you're saying in HMIS that's not going to be easily optionable?
No, we can do that. Just it means, so for example, if I'm, Patty with rapid rehousing, if I know I have the funding to serve one, I would have to put in 2 bed or unit requests. But that means you're going to get, she'll get 2 referrals, but really there's not funding or a place to serve 2. So at some point, one of them has to be returned. So hopefully, I mean, not hopefully, but in that model, we're kind of expecting people to not be responsive or not be eligible. So it's kind of a natural choice. But it could be where, say Patty in this example puts 2 housing opportunities available, but she only has funding for 1. At some point, we have to make a decision who gets returned. Or maybe it's who goes through fastest, and whoever's still not done gets returned. And, we have that conversation when we're making the referrals, that people really need to understand that it's, once they get the referral, it's really a first come, first serve kind of model amongst just those 2, 2 for 1 opportunity.
Yeah, because now there's the primary referral and then there's the backup. So the process for working with the backup, is that not what you would just do now? No.
Not that I can see. It's 2 units, but Erin, I don't know if you were maybe interpreting things to, I'm completely new like you all to this whole actually using, I've been in HMIS, but just to upload the documents. So the actual operation of it is all, it's all new to me for the Orange County system.
I get it.
I mean, Rebecca, when I was at Mercy House, we would, if we got 2 referrals or 4 referrals, even though, again, we usually got 2 for 1, we would start working both of them, start processing both of them at the same time. And then whoever had their docs and responded, and we got a hold of them. And, I mean, it really did they really did fall out at about 50% of the time. But if 2 people were really fairly ready and we're kind of on track together, then it's whoever gets done first. And then the second one, we keep them we wait for the next opportunity for them to match them to the next opportunity.
Yeah. And, one thing that kind of helps me is it's, as much as I hate to see people get returned, it's obviously not the goal. It does help them prepare. If there are 2 that are ready and 1 gets returned because they just happen to be slightly slower than the first, then they're that much more ready for the next referral.
Right.
In all likelihood, they're pretty high on the list, so they'll get another referral.
And
soon.
My experience was, truthfully, it was rare that 2 of them were ready pretty much at the same time. Usually one of them was, more prepared, responded faster, and I mean, one would rise to the top.
Well, thank you. Thank you both. That was helpful. Any other thoughts on this 2 for 1 or anything from anybody else? We know American Family Housing, you receive a lot of referrals, or even like tenant-based type referrals might be held. Like anybody receiving mainstream vouchers, how you might like to see that played out.
Rebecca, this is Erin. Are you saying you are already matching 2 people to 1 opportunity, or that's something you're considering?
No, we typically do. Yeah, we typically refer a primary and a backup for every available housing opportunity.
Yeah, if you wanted to continue doing that, you would have to put in 2 opportunities.
Yeah, that's
like a duplicate of the same opportunity. I don't love that idea because it's not good data practice, but functionality wise, that's what you would have to do.
Yeah, and then it puts the burden on the housing providers. Just so you're all aware of this, it impacts, because then if you're returning the 1 and you don't want to automatically get a replacement match, you really have to remember to delete that opportunity so that the following week you're not getting that referral again, because there's really no system for letting me know you don't want to get a replacement. I'm just, every week, I'm going to get a list of what referrals are needed. So you really have to manage those referrals. If you're putting in, and what Erin probably doesn't like is it's kind of like putting in a fake extra referral, right? There's the real opportunity, and then there's a fake one we're adding in. Once that fake one's returned, and you don't need a replacement, then you really have to delete that, so it's not floating.
Well, and if you delete it, you're probably gonna delete that client was ever matched. You're gonna delete that whole record.
Mm.
It only stores referrals for matches that have an existing, there's no way to inactivate a housing opportunity. You can only delete it.
Yeah, you can only delete it. So whichever client didn't get matched, you would delete that opportunity. That client would be sent back to the queue, and it will look like they've just sat on the queue, that they didn't get matched.
Okay. Well, that still might be the best
Like to reflect that information in their HMIS records that client was matched to Mercy House on December 2nd, and then returned on December 8th or whatever. I mean, is there any way to put that in their records?
You could put it in a note, but you're not going to be able to report on that information.
Yeah. So you're saying, Erin, that the whole referral will be deleted in addition to the housing opportunity?
I believe so, yes. I could test, but
yeah.
So there's no tracking mechanism, Erin. There's no way to track that activity.
Well, the tracking mechanism is to match one client to one opportunity, and if that doesn't work, return them and match somebody else.
But I'm understanding you to say when you return it, that deletes.
I'm
right?
saying no. If someone is matched and returned, it tracks that. But they are talking about matching two clients to two opportunities that are duplicates of each other.
Right.
And one of those clients obviously is not going to be able to be matched. And you would have to delete that opportunity. Otherwise, Rebecca is going to think a new client needs to be matched that opportunity. And when you delete that duplicate opportunity, it takes the whole referral with it. So you won't have that history of the client's match.
Yeah.
Well, Erin, if you have other suggestions, I do think, kind of to Paula's point, we really have seen a need for 2 referrals for every housing opportunity, particularly the more permanent supportive housing. Rapid rehousing works a little better with the staggered. They can tend to ask over time and don't necessarily need the 2-for-1 as often. So if there's other ways to meet that need for 2-for-1 without.
Have you talked with the Family Solutions Collaborative about it at all? Because they are not doing that.
No, they don't do 2-for-1, but they don't see a lot of permanent supportive housing either. So yeah, I can see Danielle's thirding the 2-for-1. Oftentimes we need more than 2-for-1, but we try to stick with the 2-for-1. And then if they need an additional referral, we could kind of maybe keep that returned referral open for a while and replace that way if it turns out we need, right, particularly at lease ups when it's a whole new project. That's where we need the most referrals. So oftentimes we need 3. We ultimately, over the whole referral period, we need 3 referrals for every housing opportunities, but we can always replace referrals still using the 2-for-1 model, and just as one gets referred, hold on to that referral and replace it with a new referral. I don't know. There's no way to do 2 referrals for 1 housing opportunity though, right, Erin?
Right.
Yeah. Well, sounds
I'll
like
think about it.
things Darren doesn't like.
I'll think about it and see if there's anything we can finagle.
Yeah. Okay. Thanks, Erin. And of course, our collective brains too. If anybody else has thoughts or anything, that would be great too. Okay, any other topics or concerns on people's minds? And what's next, or what does our world look like on the 23rd? The answer is I don't know.
Hi, Rebecca. It's Richard.
Hi, Richard.
I have a question about the Project Home Key, because it says referrals are supposed to come from CES, but the VI SPDAT is not going to be done until they're already in the unit there. So it kind of looks, it's an opposite process where other housing opportunities, VI SPDAT is done, individuals are placed on the prioritization list and they're matched with referral or matched with the opportunity. For Home Key, the opportunities are out there and the individuals will be matched, but VI SPDAT and everything will be done on site once they're into the program. So do we know how that referral process is going to?
This is news to me, but I'm not sure if it's a term. I'm assuming not, because Jamboree is very involved with, obviously, in Project Home Key. My understanding is Project Home Key will pull from our coordinated entry list, but that's in 2 years or so, as these projects transition to permanent supportive housing, in which case they would have to be on the community queue, which means the assessment's completed and they have their verification docs uploaded. For the Home Key that's transitioning right now, kind of as like interim housing or bridge housing. My understanding was that they were going to complete their assessment as part of their interim housing. And I don't think that there are referrals, maybe future as turnover happens, but my understanding is Project Home Key as bridge housing is already accepting the existing Project Room Key referrals, which some have their assessment, some don't have it completed. Is that close?
Okay. Yeah. There's. I remember reading that the referrals would come from CES, so I just wasn't sure how that component would come in with us doing the SPDATs on site once they're already accepted into their rooms.
Yeah, I think it might be this kind of how Project Home Key is kind of going to be interim housing or bridge housing for a while and then permanent housing. I think that might be the distinction, is the interim or bridge housing, they can complete their assessment while they're in that, the next year or 2 years, hopefully less time. But once it transitions to permanent supportive housing, really any referrals should have their assessment completed by then.
Okay.
Hopefully much sooner.
Right. Yeah.
Yeah. Good. Thanks, Richard. Okay. Well, good. It sounds like it's going to be an easy transition. Nobody has any questions, concerns? Are all housing providers kind of in HMIS? Is anybody? We have a session tomorrow about people who aren't in HMIS that I encourage you to attend if you're not in HMIS. But if there's anybody on the call here today that's not set up or doesn't have a project set up, I know Heroes Landing I'll reach out about. I have some pending questions about mainstream vouchers. So if you're accepting mainstream voucher referrals, expect a call from me. Anybody else? No? Okay, well, I'm not seeing anything come in, and it sounds like hopefully this means everybody feels comfortable and is ready for this transition. I am going through so I'm working with Erin very closely on the migration, right? We're sending all the data over to Erin, and then she's working to get it migrated into HMIS by the 23rd is the goal. But I'm working on creating the files of all the existing pending housing matches. So all the people that you have already referred to that are pending referrals. So what I'd like to do is, if I've been sending you referrals, I'll probably send you the list of referrals that I show as pending. So if you could review those and get back to me fairly quickly, I think that will really help on our data cleanup once we're in HMIS, because I would hate to bog down your referral dashboard on your first day, just to have you send back referrals, or or it turns out they're housed or something already. So I will commit to sending those lists out to you by the end of the week, so that you can give me feedback before Tuesday. Would be great. And then if you come up with any other questions, or thoughts come into your mind as you kind of settle into this new reality, please don't hesitate to reach out. And I envision there'll probably be a follow-up meeting, similar format after our implementation, just in case questions come up as we start to operationalize and use HMIS for this purposes. So probably something maybe in the beginning of January. But like I said, please feel free to reach out, and thank you so much for making the time. And I will follow up on Friday with the recording and the documents we reviewed. So thank you.
Thank you, Rebecca.
Bye.
Thanks, Erin.
Yeah,
Bye,
thank you, Erin.
everybody. Hey, Paula.
Thank you.
Thank you. Bye.